Antics on Scottish Turf, written by John Eaton, narrated by Michelle Sloane. Chapter 1. Breakfast. The mayhem that was Cranbourne Abbey was now well over. Lady Helen had many things to do when she returned to Craigmere, his Scottish estate, handed over to her by her now ex-husband, Hamish MacLeod. C knew that when she went home, she would have a lot of work to do and a lot of organising of the Craigmere estate. Her ex-husband's defection to Russia had left her with the administrative chaos that happens when the estate was transferred to her. Although Lady Helen was relieved that her marriage was now over, she was pensive about her future, and her wish to get back to her estate in Scotland and assuming the role of being the lady of the estate and being fearful of her wholesome responsibilities. Given that Hamish MacLeod was always away, staying in London, it had always been Lady Helen who managed the estate on her own. Snow, though, somehow, knowing there was no one but her now to make decisions and to have full responsibility for the years ahead, was daunting. She had to look at her role as if she was the laird, not just the lady. Since the mayhem at Cranbourne Abbey, she had felt safe and protected while staying at Alison's house, sharing her bedroom with her new partner, Hugh Pym. Chip continued to share his life and Alison's bed with her. Alison's two-bedroom terrace house was compact to say the least, especially for Lady Helen, who was used to large expanses of rooms, of all shapes, sizes, and designations. Plus, there was acres of grounds, horses, sheep, and every type of edible animal available, and a few thousand rats that were not edible at all. Craigmere was both a grand estate and a working farm, with a slice of horse breeding on the side. It ran itself, so in order to keep in touch, Lady Helen rang every day to keep abreast with the events surrounding the estate. Part of her wanted to go back, but part of her remembered where she had come from, a squalid flat in Bethnal Green, and somehow was used to the sordid way the hoi polloi lived. In the short time she was living at Alison's, Lady Helen had become enthralled with daytime TV and would live her life around Coronation Street, Brookside, and EastEnders. Pym didn't mind. He and Chip were out at the lockup trying to sell second-hand anything and everything to keep afloat, and he could get away from the domesticity of a quasi-married life. Thankfully, Alison still worked, and as a result they all were fed and watered with her blessing. November just slipped by. The stress and strain of Cranbourne Abbey had taken its toll on them. They missed out on everything, including bonfire night and the American Thanksgiving. They were looking forward to Christmas, even the eventual taste of dried-out turkey meat and lumpy gravy for Boxing Day. It was the time of year when nights were dark and the days short, but as short as Lady Helen would endure when she and Pym would be back at her estate in Craigmere. Down in deepest Exeter, the cold temperature was a couple of degrees warmer than in the Lady Helen's Highland estate of Craigmere. Today was December 1st, and Lady Helen had decided that the holiday was over. She was getting bored with her life and needed to go home. As much as she enjoyed the peace and quiet of Devon and not having any fiscal or emotional responsibility in Alison's house, she wanted to be home for Christmas. Her life had to go on. Chip and Pym arrived back at Alison's at 4:30. It was getting dark, and they hadn't had a customer all day. Alison would be back at 5 o'clock, and they would eat at 6. Lady Helen had been busy that day, cooking haggis and opening a bottle of famous grouse. She wanted to hint about returning to Scotland without frightening the horses. Prosody 10%. 3 double grouse should do it, she said to herself about getting them to accept she was going. As she was pouring the first of the double grouse drinks, Pym walked in, smelt the cooking and the whiskey and said, "Hullo, darling. Busy day?" Pym was still in a passionate state with Lady Helen and had moved on from calling her Milady to darling. Lady Helen disliked both, but quite liked Pym, so she put up with it. Chip tripped as he came through the kitchen door and bumped into the table, forcing the pot with the haggis to fly off the table and onto the floor.